Yes. How's it going? You alright, yeah? You having a good Christmas and a good New Year? I thought I'd do a little shit video, try and ram in another quick video, before the end of the year. A little catch-up video. Just talk a bit of bullshit. What's been going on since the last time I did a video? Yeah, Callum Smith got smacked up by Canelo, didn't he? It looked so easy for Canelo, didn't it? It looked like a little sparring session, didn't it? To say that he was like fighting an unbeaten world champion in Callum Smith. He made it look so easy, didn't he, Canelo? Like, when they did a head-to-head before the fight, people were saying, oh, Callum Smith, he's got the height and reach advantage. This might be a 50-50 fight, but it was nothing like that, was it? It was nothing like that at all. Like, I sparred the other day, in the boxing gym. I sparred Kid Galahad. And Kid Galahad, he's about 5'5". He's like really small. I'm about 6'2". So he's like a lot smaller than me. But like sparring with him, it was like really hard, to like catch him with anything. It was really hard because it's like a smaller target, innit? So it's like less target to aim for. So, these smaller fighters, they're kind of harder to hit, some of them. So, when people say, oh, he's got a height and reach advantage, it's not always necessarily a good thing. Like, when Callum Smith was like punching down at Canelo, he'd like throw a punch over the top, because like Callum Smith like was punching down and like he was like exposing himself because he was like punching down. So, Callum Smith being taller than Canelo, it's not necessarily an advantage, is it? People say, oh, a good big boxer will beat a good little boxer. Not necessarily. Fucking Hagler fucked up Hearns, didn't he? He proper fucked up Hearns, didn't he? Hagler, and Hearns was a lot taller than Hagler. So, all this, a good big boxer will beat a good little boxer. It's a load of shit, innit? It's a load of fucking nonsense. Like, you remember when David Haye boxed that big ugly cunt Valuev? That big ugly fucker Valuev. He got fucked up by David Haye, didn't he? Even though he was a lot taller and a lot bigger. He still got fucked up, didn't he? Despite having a reach advantage, he still got fucked up, didn't he? That Nikolai Valuev. So, having height and reach advantages, it's not always a good thing. That Valuev, he was slow as fuck, wasn't he? He had all that extra weight. And he was like a fucking robot, wasn't he? A fucking ugly robot. So he got fucked up by David Haye, didn't he? And it's the same with Canelo. Even though he wasn't as tall as Callum Smith, he still won, didn't he? Easily. And people say, yeah, but Canelo, he's drugged up, he's on that Mexican beef. But, taking performance-enhancing drugs and being on Mexican beef, it can make you a bit stronger and a bit fitter and make you a bit more durable. But it's not going to give you like a good skill set, is it? And Canelo shown good skills, in that fight with Callum Smith. Slipping and like blocking punches on his arms and his gloves. Fucking tiring out Callum Smith. He really did well, didn't he, Canelo? And that doesn't come from like taking drugs, does it? I don't think the Mexican beef was an advantage to him. I don't think it played a factor in the fight at all. You know what I mean? Canelo is good tactically, isn't he? Smashing up Callum Smith's arms. Bruising up his arms so he can't throw punches properly. That's a good tactic, innit? And I think Canelo, he did that deliberately, punched Callum Smith's arms. Because, like, in that round there, when he, like, tapped his arm, like to say to Callum Smith, yeah, I fucked up your arms, didn't I? Callum Smith, like, nodded, to say, yeah, you fucked up my arms. So I think that was deliberate, from Canelo. He did well, didn't he? It's like, you know, Lennox Lewis slicing up Klitschko's eye like that. You know, slicing him up and then like targeting that cut, you know, to make the blood just drip into his eyes even more. You know, so he can't see out of one eye. You know, it was a good tactic, wasn't it, from Lennox Lewis. You know, put them at a disadvantage, you know, because they got a load of blood dripping into their eyes and then they fuck them up. It's a good tactic, innit? You have to do what you have to do. You know, and that's what Canelo did against Callum Smith, you know, fucked up his arms. But I don't know if he did that deliberately, you know, hitting the arms, because, you know, Canelo, he caught that fucking Amir Khan with that similar punch, didn't he? And like, you know, Amir Khan's Papadom chin, that's probably the same height as Callum Smith's bicep, you know, because Callum Smith's quite tall. So, you know, when Canelo hit Amir Khan, you know, on his Papadom chin, you know, it was a good punch, wasn't it? And that punch probably would have hit Callum Smith's bicep. So I don't know if he did it deliberately or not. I don't know. It's hard to say, isn't it? Well, yeah, Callum Smith, he was just outclassed, wasn't he, in every way possible. And like, you know, in the last round, he like grabbed hold of Canelo, you know, and like looked at the clock, you know, to try and get to the end of the fight. What do you think of that? Do you think he like showing a bit of weakness there? Like, you know, the contradiction Froch. He was a tough guy, wasn't he? You know, if he boxed Canelo, he wouldn't have tried to like grab hold, would he? You know, to try and get to the end of the fight. You know, when Carl Froch was getting fucked up by Jermaine Taylor, you know, he just dug deep, didn't he? He just kept digging and digging. He didn't think, oh, let me just grab hold of him and, you know, look at the clock and try and get to the end of the fight. You know, he just dug deep, you know, and like forced the stoppage. Like, you know, when he got knocked down by George Groves, you know, he didn't try and like hold on and try and get to the end of the fight, you know, and fucking lose on points. He thought, you know what, I'm going to fuck up George Groves. And he dug deep, didn't he? And he forced that little shit referee, Howard Foster, you know, to stop the fight prematurely. You know, it was a bit of an early stoppage, wasn't it? But, you know, in the rematch, Carl Froch made George Groves fall on his own leg, you know, in front of 80,000 people at Wembley. So you have to rate Carl Froch. You have to rate him, you know, when he was in his fighting days. He was a tough guy, wasn't he? He's not as tough anymore though, you know, nowadays. I went to his little restaurant, you know, in Nottingham, Alto, you know, to have a word with him, you know, because like Carl Froch, you know, he started ringing up Dominic Ingle, you know, like complaining about my videos. So I went to his little bar, you know, Alto, to put it on him, and he fucking see me walking up to him, yeah. And he like quickly walked into the kitchen, you know, to try and get away from me. You know what I mean? He's fucking lost that tough spirit that he had back in the days. He's not a tough, hard gladiator that he once was, Carl Froch. You know, quickly running into his kitchen to get away from me. Like, you remember when he ran away from Gareth the Arsehole Davis? Do you know what I mean? That was a fucking cowardly move, wasn't it? From the contradiction Froch. You know what I mean? That was probably the biggest cowardly move in British boxing history. You know, Carl Froch running away from Gareth the Arsehole Davis. Why would he do that? Do you know what I mean? It just shows that he lost it. He's fucking lost that tough gladiator spirit that he once had back in the days when he was boxing. You know, that fancy woman that he's with now, that fancy model, Rachel Cordingley, she's kind of made him a bit soft. And he's not a tough guy anymore, you know, running into the kitchen. But back in his day, he was like a tough guy, wasn't he? He was like really tough, and you had to rate him. But, you know, Callum Smith grabbing hold of Canelo, looking at the clock, you know, trying to get to the end of the fight, it's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit like, some fighters are made of different ingredients. You know, like Nigel Benn, you know, when he got fucking knocked out of the ring by Gerald McLennan. You know, Gerald McLennan, he was like seen as being a mini Mike Tyson. And like, you know that title there, mini Mike Tyson. You know, Jeff Lacey, you know, being given the title mini Mike Tyson. You know him, Calzaghe fucked him up, didn't he? He was overrated, wasn't he, Jeff Lacey? He was like a fake fucking hyped up fighter. You know, being given the title mini Mike Tyson, left hook Lacey. He wasn't all that good, was he? He was just hype. He was overrated. You know, he's got a fancy car there, on it, boy. He's probably broke now. You know, he probably believed in his own hype. You know, people saying that he's the mini Mike Tyson. So he probably spent a load of money, you know, buying fancy cars like that. You know, believing in his own hype, trying to be all flashy. You know, and then Calzaghe fucked him up, didn't he? And then you didn't really hear about him after that. He was given the title Mini Mike Tyson, but he didn't deserve it at all, did he? But you know, Gerald McLennan, he deserved that title, didn't he? He was a fucking tough guy, Gerald McLennan. You know, he was a bit evil, wasn't he? He loved dogfighting. He was a bit of a fucking wanker, wasn't he, Gerald McLennan? But he was a fucking evil, tough bastard. So, you know, Nigel Benn getting knocked out the ring and then just sticking with it and digging deep and then fucking up Gerald McLennan, you know, and blinding him. You have to rate Nigel Benn, don't you? You know, he wouldn't have like tried to grab hold and looked at the clock, you know, like Callum Smith. He was made of different ingredients, wasn't he? Same with Chris Eubank Sr, English. You know, when Carl Thompson like closed one of his eyes. He didn't quit, did he? He didn't quit like Daniel Dubois taking a knee. You know, or the Black Quitter fucking pussying out. Some fighters are just made differently, aren't they? They're just made of different ingredients. You know what I mean? But I don't know if Callum Smith's got it. You know, holding on like that and looking at the clock. Canelo's quite good though, isn't he? He's learned a lot from Mayweather, hasn't he? You know, when Mayweather caught him with that uppercut. Canelo has been studying his fight with Mayweather and he's learned how to throw that little uppercut as well, hasn't he? He's really studied his defeat to Mayweather. Canelo tried to smack up Mayweather's arms as well, didn't he? He tried to bruise up Mayweather's arms, but it didn't work, did it? You know, Mayweather's too clever for that, and he's too slick for that. You know, it backfired, didn't it? Canelo trying to fuck up Mayweather's arms like he did Callum Smith. It didn't work out well for him, did it? You know, the Canelo of today, do you think he would have beat the Mayweather of back then who beat Canelo? Prime for prime, who do you think would have won that? It's hard to compare like eras. You know, it's really hard to compare, innit? Like some people try and compare Golovkin to Hagler. They say who would have won out of Golovkin and Hagler, but it's hard to say, innit? Like, you know, all this Mexican beef that's going around in boxing now, you know, these fucking drug cheats in boxing. You know, all these performance enhancing drugs, you know, none of this was around back in Hagler's day. So these old school fighters, I don't know how they'd get on, you know, if they fought like the modern day fighters. But that's a bit silly though, isn't it? That's like saying Leonard and Hagler and Duran and, you know, them guys, they won't be able to live with the guys of today. Terence Crawford, fucking Pacquiao, Thurman, Errol Spence. You know what I mean? They'd probably fuck them up. I don't know. It's hard to say, innit? It's hard to compare eras. It's like people say, you know, how would Bruce Lee have got on in the UFC? But it's kind of hard to compare, innit? Like Bruce Lee to UFC fighters, because Bruce Lee was around in the 70s. So that was like 50 years ago, you know, things have evolved since. But they say like Bruce Lee was like the very first guy, you know, to like mix different styles of fighting. You know, he was like an early pioneer, you know, of like MMA, mixed martial arts, like, because you know in that film Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee made that guy tap out, didn't he? He made him tap out, and like UFC wasn't around back then, you know, in the 70s. So Bruce Lee made people tap out, and you know, he threw a load of kicks. He threw a load of fancy kicks, so he was like an all-rounder, wasn't he, Bruce Lee? But UFC wasn't around back then, so it's hard to know how good he actually was, you know, in a real fight. It's alright looking good on film, but I could beat Mayweather, you know, in a film, in a boxing film, you know, if it was scripted for me to beat Mayweather. So I don't know how good Bruce Lee was at real fighting. Because films are films, aren't they? They're like scripted. Anyone can beat anyone in a film. But I think if Bruce Lee was around today, he would have learned like all the styles, you know, the kicking, the grappling, the fucking Khabib stuff. He would have been like an all-rounder, Bruce Lee. But the Bruce Lee of back then, you know, against the Khabib of today, I think Khabib would have fucked him up. Khabib would have really fucked him up, wouldn't he? You know, with all that ground and pound shit. Yeah, Chris Eubank Jr is trying to get in on the Canelo Callum Smith hype, innit? You know, saying he wants to fight Canelo. What do you think of that? You know, Chris Eubank Jr, you know, he lost to George Groves, didn't he? George Groves lost to Callum Smith. Callum Smith got fucked up by Canelo. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything, does it? Do you know what I mean? Like, fucking Mike Tyson's a legend, isn't he? But he got fucked up by Danny Williams. Do you know what I mean? You know, Danny Williams is a little nobody, isn't he? He's not a fucking legend like Mike Tyson, is he? So you can't start calling Danny Williams a legend, you know, just because he fucked up an old, washed up Mike Tyson. So I don't really think these things really matter. Like, you know, Joe Frazier, he got fucked up by George Foreman, didn't he? George Foreman battered him, you know, knocked him down about 5 times. You know, made him run away and then smacked him, you know, when he was trying to run off Joe Frazier. So George Foreman looked really good against Joe Frazier. Muhammad Ali, he like kind of struggled with fucking Joe Frazier, didn't he? He had a few tough fights with Joe Frazier, didn't he? So George Foreman looked better against Joe Frazier than Ali, but Ali fucked up George Foreman, didn't he? So, you know, fucking Eubank losing to George Groves and George Groves losing to Callum Smith and Callum Smith losing to Canelo. It doesn't necessarily mean that Eubank's going to lose to Canelo, but I don't know, I think Eubank's just trying to live off Canelo's fucking name, trying to live off his success. You know, like he did with Golovkin. He was offered the chance, you know, to fight Golovkin. But he lost his pen, didn't he? He didn't fucking want it, did he? Eubank. So he just tries to like live off people's name, you know, and their hype. People were slagging off Joshua, you know, saying, you know, when he beat Pulev and he got interviewed afterwards, he didn't mention Tyson Fury. So he's scared of him and he's trying to avoid him. But I don't really think that's true, you know, to be honest. I just think Joshua, he doesn't want Tyson Fury to get any hype, you know, on the back of his victory against Pulev. Yeah, Joshua's come out with a new saying, hasn't he? Less talk, more action. You know, what the fuck is that? You know, Joshua, you know, coming out with these shit sayings. He thinks he's some kind of poet, don't he, Joshua? He thinks he's some kind of philosophical poet, you know, coming out with these little shit sayings. Less talk, more action. You know, it don't sound good at all, does it? Why is he trying to be a poet all the time with these little sayings? Less talk, more action. You know, it sounds shit, don't it? Joshua with these little sayings. Don't let success get to your head or failure get to your heart. You know, what the fuck is that? You know, these little sayings from Joshua. Stay humble. They're not catchy at all, are they? 258 management. You know what I mean? That's just a load of fucking numbers, that is. It's a load of fucking numbers, innit? Yeah. 25 hours in a day, 8 days a week. Yeah. It's a load of bollocks, innit? 258 management. It don't sound good at all, does it? Some boxers are really good at talking, you know, like Mike Tyson. You know, he's got a nice little YouTube channel on it. It's quite good to listen to. It's in black and white though for some reason, but other than that, it's quite good, you know, to listen to Mike Tyson talking. He's quite interesting, isn't he? Spinal. You know, that's fucking interesting, innit? Spinal. So he's really fucking interested in him, Mike Tyson. But you know, Joshua with these little shit sayings. Less talk, more action. Come on, man. Just fucking pack it in, man. Just pack it in with his fucking shit poetry. It's not working, man. It don't sound good at all. Less talk, more action. But yeah, he's trying to fucking prevent Tyson Fury from getting any exposure, you know, on the back of Joshua's victory against Pulev. He's trying to deny him that exposure, any Joshua. Like, you know, Coogan, yeah. Coogan watches every single one of these videos, yeah. He fucking watches every single video that I do. Do you know what I mean? But he never ever says that he watches them. You know, he'd never ever write a tweet saying, yeah, I just watched the TFL TV video and it was really good, yeah. You know, he'd never fucking do that, Coogan, would he? You know, he don't want to give me the exposure. Even though he watches every single video that I do, he would never say that he watches them. And you know, if he's watching one of my videos and somebody walks into the room, he'll quickly turn the video off. Do you know what I mean? That's what he's like, innit? He tries to make out like he's too good to watch the videos. He doesn't want to give me any exposure. So it's the same with Joshua and Tyson, innit? You know what I mean? And like, you know, when I slag off Coogan's bent legs, you know, he never ever responds to it, does he? He never replies to it, does he? He never tries to slag me off back, does he, Coogan? One, because he knows he'll get beat up. But the second reason is because he doesn't want to give me any exposure. And Coogan giving me exposure is worse than him taking a beating from me. Coogan would rather get beat up by me, you know, than give me any exposure. You don't want me to do well at all, does he, Coogan? Fuck him. But yeah, that'll do, you know, just a little shit video today, just a quick video, you know, about Canelo against Callum Smith. But yeah, where do you think Callum Smith goes from here? You know, you might say, well, he's only lost to one of the best pound for pound boxers in the world. You're talking like he's just lost to a journeyman, but it's not just a loss to Canelo, is he? John Ryder was robbed. You know, John Ryder was robbed, wasn't he? He deserved to win that fight. So it's like, you know that coke sniffer, Kelly Sunderland? You know that little fancy tournament that he put on? That was a multi-million pound tournament, wasn't it? And Callum Smith won it, didn't he? So he's secured the bag now, Callum Smith. So he might have lost that hunger, you know. He hasn't really boxed well, you know, since securing the bag. His hunger might have gone now, you know, like grabbing hold of Canelo and like looking at the time and, you know, trying to get to the end of the fight to lose on points and, you know, John Ryder getting robbed. So I don't know. Callum Smith's hunger might have gone now. He secured the bag. And he's had a kid as well, hasn't he? And like, I've spoke to a few boxers, you know, that have had kids, and like, it can go either way. You know, when boxers have a kid, yeah, they can think, I've got to achieve in boxing, you know, to set my kid's future up, you know, set my kid up for life so they don't have to get punched in the face for a living. So I've got to make it, you know, and try and do well, you know, so my kids are proud of me. So they can think like that, yeah, or they can think, you know what, fuck boxing. You know, if I end up in a coma, you know, I won't be able to look after my kids properly, you know, if I'm a fucking vegetable. So fuck boxing. And like, you know, they don't want to spend time away from their kids, you know, in training camp and all that. So some boxers, when they have a kid, they just lose that desire, you know, to box. So I don't know if that's happened to Callum Smith, you know, since he's had a kid and he's secured the bag. But yeah, that'll do, you know. That'll do, I think. You know what? I'm really looking forward to trolling some new people in boxing, you know, in the new year. I'm really looking forward to it. Who shall I troll in boxing, you know, in the new year in my videos? What about Sam Jones? He's a bit fucking, isn't he? Sam Jones. He's a bit fucking, isn't he? Yeah, you know Sam Jones, yeah. He sent me a message, you know, on Instagram, you know, talking a load of crap. You know, slagging me off. And then he like deleted the message, you know, like hoping that I didn't see the message. Well, I seen your fucking message. I seen you talking a load of crap. You know, before you like tried to quickly delete the message, I seen you talking a load of crap. Do you know what I mean? You know, if you're gonna fucking talk a load of crap, just fucking stick by it. You know, don't pussy out and like delete your messages. You know, that's like fucking Anthony Joshua, innit? You know, with the contradiction Froch. You remember when the contradiction Froch said that Joshua isn't one of the best pound for pound boxers in Britain? You know, and then fucking Joshua, he started sending the contradiction Froch a load of insulting messages, you know, on WhatsApp. You know, dissing the contradiction Froch. And then Joshua like pussied out, you know, and like deleted the messages. So then the contradiction Froch woke up in the morning and seen like a load of deleted WhatsApp messages, you know, from Joshua. So it's like, what the fuck is Joshua doing with that? Look how fucking big Joshua is, you know, compared to the contradiction Froch. And he's fucking pussying out like that, you know, deleting his WhatsApp messages that he sent to the contradiction Froch. You know, it's a bit of a fucking baby thing in it from Joshua. And it's the same with that fucking Sam Jones. Do you know what I mean? You know, if you're gonna talk shit to me, just fucking stick to your guns and don't pussy out. You know, it's a bit of a fucking baby thing in it. So I think I'm gonna really fucking troll that Sam Jones, you know, in these videos in the new year. I think I'm gonna put it on Sam Jones, you know, for talking a load of crap to me and then pussying out, deleting the messages. That's some fucking baby thing in it. But yeah, that'll do, you know. Thanks for tuning in again, yeah? Yeah, thanks for that.